Felicitations! This is me, Felicia Day, and this is my podcast. Welcome, everybody. It is the end of February almost, which is always the trickiest month, right? It's always the jerk month. Because you think, I got a whole month to accomplish stuff, and then you're like, I lost a whole week. This is such a lame, crappy little month. So yeah, whatever. I don't even think it's a leap year. Is it a leap year? No. So we don't even get that extra day that makes it somewhat redeemable. Can't we take one day from a 31 thing and just add it to February so we don't have to just be like, whoa, where did that month go? We're just dying so fast. I don't know. Anywho, it's been kind of crazy. I know that I'm a week late on the podcast. I apologize on that. I had to go to Austin last week to receive an award. Sorry. I got an award from the Fine Arts College of University of Texas at Austin. And it was a real honor. It's one of the highest awards they can give. I got the Young Alumni Award. The other alumni award went to an amazing actor who's been in a million things, Bruce McGill. He's a guy that you'll literally recognize the minute you search his name, but you're like, who? Bruce McGill? He's been in literally everything for 30, 40 years, right? So he was an acting student there. Made quite a career. He was in Animal House, so that's kind of like what got him his start. He was lovely. It was just a really good time. So I flew out with the baby because my I have family in Austin still, and that was fun because I didn't really enjoy the trip. I mean, not to say I don't enjoy traveling with my daughter. It's just multitasking. I always think, I'm going to go there for work and we'll do a vacation at the same time. Hello, you're never going to have that. You cannot combine those two things ever again. I always come home thinking I need a vacation from whatever that vacation was. I'm sure you all remember the infamous 4-week sojourn around Europe where I literally got broken. And that was, I could tie that trip directly to my descent into a pretty deep depression over the summer last year. That and my thyroid medicine. Let's not talk about it anymore. But anyway, But so I haven't really traveled with Calliope since we went to Hawaii. Again, I was doing a convention there. So I'm going to stop trying to combine business and pleasure. Because with a child, it used to be business and pleasure were completely intertwined. And now I just have to be like, no. Okay? It's peanut butter or chocolate. You can have one, not the other. You have a peanut allergy or acid reflux is triggered by chocolate. I don't know what I'm saying right now. So I went to Austin. I gave a lecture I was in the library. There weren't that many people there. It was fine, like 40 people. They were cool because Austin has some kind of like game design program now. So it's kind of like in the Fine Arts College, there's a game design division, which is super cool. If they had that back then, I probably would have switched majors. Or as I discovered about myself, having gone back to my campus, I remember. It's so weird, guys, when you go back to places you were a formative place in your youth or whatever, you start to remember things about yourself and who you were and just all sorts of things when you're in the place. So in walking through campus and kind of seeing old professors, it was just such a reminder of what I used to be and some of the things I actually miss about myself and kind of that boundless enthusiasm and confidence that I had. Even though I wasn't that confident, I was super awkward. Even the professor who I took ballet class introduced me for my award, and she was so socially awkward. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. That will be a universal until I'm dead. But I kind of, as I went around campus, I realized, I always try to talk myself in classes that I wasn't a major of. So I even make a joke because when I accepted the award, because I actually never took an acting class at UT. They wouldn't let me in the acting classes as a non-major. And I always, but here's Felicia Day, I never took no for an answer. I always was like, well, they're going to make an exception for me. I don't know if that's utter arrogance or just persistence, probably both. But I would try to talk professors into letting me take their class almost as a game. So there was a folklore professor, especially because I wanted to take a survey of folklore, I think primarily emphasizing Eastern folklore, like Japanese and China. Yeah. So Asian folklore. And I wanted to get into this class so bad, and it became a game because this guy would literally not even let me in. So I just go by his office hours once a week and just chat him up. I did the same thing with an acting teacher there who, by the fourth visit, we would have great conversations, and he'd be like, I can never let you in the class. You're not a major. But if I were in Hollywood, I would hire you as my assistant. And I was like, thanks, I guess. So I did this with so many classes, and I got into some, and the one that I actually got into that I loved the most was ballet in the Fine Arts College, and that's my ballet teacher, who now helps run the college, helped give me the award. So thank you, Sandra Lomax. You are amazing. You let a socially awkward, too young girl who was going to college into your ballet classes, and you kept my thighs really skinny through my whole college years. And you gave me an award, which really, 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 it meant a lot. Sometimes when you get an award, you're like, oh, this is closing a door on something I used to be. What am I now? And this one really felt like I was reclaiming my roots in a way. I think, especially the last couple years and having a baby and kind of like going through a life crisis and not knowing how to juggle what I used to be, and having a lot of things just kind of taken away from me, either by choice or like just letting them go, or just inevitability of just everything. I've kind of like lost direction. I was having dinner with a person last week who I love very dearly, and he was like, hey, you seem a little lost. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't have a dream anymore. I mean, and not to say that I'm like, I'm not depressed. I'm very in a good place right now. I just don't have that sort of inner fire driving me. I mean, and going back to the campus really reminded me of what it was that I used to be driven by, just knowing everything and also impressing people with what I knew and being the overachiever and sort of like grabbing anything I could and just stuffing it down my gullet, like blah, 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 blah. I love you, medieval history. And that really drove me to just kind of be everything and consume everything and then, I moved to LA, and I had this sort of burgeoning confidence inside that, hey, I'm just going to be a famous actor overnight. And if you read my book, you'll know that it didn't happen overnight, but it did drive me and kept me going. And I always had that sort of faith that would happen. And then when I stumbled really upon writing and web series, and especially internet content, I had such a passion for it that I couldn't let it go. And I just would work myself into the ground. And I would always be on the lookout for innovation and new things, and just trying to please people, but in a good way, like entertaining people and creating communities. It just really fueled me. And not to say that I don't have that. I have my Discord community, which I love. I love everybody, all of you who are listening. If you're in the Discord chat, I love you guys. I don't get to hang out there as often as I would like. I could have done 10 years ago because I have a baby. I'm sorry. But it warms my heart to stream video games and like chat with people on Discord, because that's kind of the kernel of what I used to do that I love. But at the same time, professionally, I'm a little bit like, what are we doing? I mean, I'm writing a lot, and I'm auditioning, and I'm acting, some. I've been doing a lot of pilot auditions this year, and I have to say, I kind of like put my foot down, and I was like, I'm going to go out there as an actor again and get a job. And I don't know, it kind of feels, the process of going out to be an actor and kind of knocking on doors feels like I've already been there, done that in a way. And so I'm just wondering, what am I going to do? What's going to light my fire, I guess, in a sense. And I think when we have a goal or a dream, in a sense, of what we could be, even if we don't get there, at least it's like an engine that's turning us, we could turn the engine over and like, okay, let's just, we have a goal at least. And I feel like maybe I kind of pinpointed the last week that maybe I'm not being specific about what I want next, because I'm not really sure what I want. There's things I don't want to let go of. I don't want to not be an actor sometimes, but I'm not sure that my dream is going to be fulfilled if I, am on a series that somebody else created, or even be something I created. I love innovating, and I love doing things that people haven't done before. And I think there's sort of an atmosphere now that things are kind of stale in a way. Like there's not the innovation on the internet that there was. In fact, things are kind of crappy right now. The cool things that are happening are in podcasting, which is very creative. And by the way, please, Voyage to the Stars is the improv sci-fi comedy podcast that I star in, along with Janet Varney and Colton Dunn and Steve Berg from Dr. Horrible. And if you guys haven't listened to it, please download it. It's free. Go to iTunes and rate it, please. If you could, that would actually mean a lot to to us because those ratings help visibility so that new people can stumble upon the cool logo. We're going to be doing a live show in LA. I think it's April 7th or 6th. I'm not really sure. It's April 6th or 7th. Whatever the Sunday is, we're doing it. So there's going to be a live show if you're in LA. Plan on coming over. It's going to be super fun. And I'm just having a blast. I listen to these. The funny thing is when you're doing improv, you don't really remember exactly what you said. So I'm hearing them the minute they drop. And I'm like, whoa, I said that? I made myself laugh. And I just actually surprised myself because I'm like, oh, that was me. That came out of my mouth. I didn't actually know it. So it's actually, that has been kind of a highlight. And the fact that project, I'm not a producer of it. I didn't write it. But I'm an actor and I am writing it because I'm writing the dialogue when it comes out of my mouth. It's really reinvigorated me and showed me that, well, you love doing the traditional stuff in Hollywood enough, but the thing that really excites you is the stuff that's on the cutting edge. And it might not be as lucrative or as respected, but it's actually the stuff that makes you get up in the morning and want to work. And I think that's what I need to just kind of concentrate on going forward. So that's been a really good process. It was kind of up and down, to be honest with you, a while. I was kind of depressed, and then I'll go to bed and I'm anxious, and then I'm really happy and motivated, and then I'm sad again. So I've also weaning my baby the last 2 weeks too. So we're finally done. My boobs are mine again. I'm so happy. Woo woo! Yeah, she has not nursed in a week, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, this is my body again. Honk honk. They're mine. I'm pretty excited. I mean, and sad. I mean, I had a magic power to make milk with my body. How cool is that, you guys? I could live off my own body if I really had to. And that's a cool power. So I'm really proud. I don't know if I told you guys this, but early on, I could not get those boobs to work. It was a huge fight. And I hired a couple people to come in and help me. I got mastitis. It was clogs everywhere. It was a pain. I would get up every 2 hours to feed her and then pump afterwards. I got so crazy about it. I have a freezer of milk that's expired that nobody will take because it's over a year old. But I can't bring myself to throw it out. It's 200 ounces of my body in there. And I got to the mindset of treating it like it was so precious. I can't seem to just unfreeze it and throw it away. I read somewhere if you put it in a bath, it helps eczema. And I'm like, do I know anybody with eczema I can give my breast milk to? And that's creepy. So I need to deal with it this week. I also am finishing a writing deadline. I have a deadline. Friday, I'm turning this thing in. I've worked on it for 4 months and even months before that. But it's been kind of the thing that's ground me into the dirt, but also elated me in so many ways. I've experienced the highest highs and the lowest lows writing this project, and you guys will see it later this year, so that's exciting. You'll be able to consume what I'm doing. 2 things, because once I finish this thing, I'm going to jump to the other thing that will be out later this year that I haven't started, that will consume the next 6 months. So here's, of course I'm down on myself. I'm like, you don't have a dream anymore. You're not working toward anything, and I have 5 projects on the plate. So I don't know what it is about me that I can never just be focused on what I'm doing and just see it through before jumping into the future. I can feel in my mind as I'm rewriting this thing I'm about to turn in that my mind is starting racing ahead, and I'm like, I have 17 projects I want to work on. And yeah, the probability is that maybe one I will see through. Oh well, that's just me. So I had a really good week. I did not watch any TV really the last 3 weeks. I watched Russian Dolls, and I binged it in 2 nights or something, and it was brilliant. And sometimes I can't watch something on TV because I'm like, why didn't you do something like that? And I'm like, Felicia, can you not make it about you? And I was really proud that all I did was enjoy this, even though the lead character wore red hair. I just love what she did, and she created the perfect role for herself, and the show is so perfectly plotted. And the ending is fulfilling in a kind of esoteric way. I don't know. I highly recommend it. I think it's super innovative. The last thing I enjoyed this much was Master of None, which also is on Netflix. Yay, Netflix. Yeah, so there you go. Also, The Guild will be back on Netflix, guys, very soon. So just hold your horses. Check my Twitter feed and the Guild Twitter feed to see when it will come out. All the old episodes. They will be exclusively on Netflix for a period because that's just the deal. And I'm excited about it, to have it back on there so people can enjoy it as movies. So if you get the DVDs, you can always watch them wherever you are. They're all international people can get that and everything. I did read a lot of books, though, because I was just interested in books. I finished The Monster Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. You guys remember I loved The Traitor Baru Cormorant, and this was the sequel. And it is really good. It's different from the first one. It has different points of view. It's not only from the main character's point of view, and I think a lot of people in the reviews were a little jarred by that. But it actually turns out to be super rewarding as you get deeper in. And I cannot wait for the next 2 books to finish this series. So I think it's going to be another year before another one's out. So it's sad, but highly, 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 highly recommend it. The world building is just incredible, as is the plotting. I also read Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Earns. And I've had this on my Kindle for I think 2 years or something. So it's kind of crazy. But the cover always kind of put me off because it was like a bunch of old warrior dudes. And this is kind of the Wild Hogs equivalent of a fantasy novel, but it's kind of brilliant that way. Remember Wild Hogs? It was like that old dude motorcycle group got together again and did something. I didn't watch it. It's kind of like the same thing. So a mercenary group gets back together to sort of go save one of their daughters. And it's so good, you guys. I actually cried. It's just really enjoyable. The group of characters was awesome. It's at the heart of it. It's about, how friends love each other. And it's just real imaginative. I love the world. I love the world and the characters. And there's just people, people die and it's sad. Highly recommended if you are a fantasy person. I would say the sort of attitude of it was kind of Joe Abercrombie, kind of like gritty future, that kind of gritty fantasy that's really popular right now. But if you do it well, why not, right? And that book really did it well. The last book I read was Kill the Queen by Jennifer Estep, and I'm not sure if it's out yet. I got a preview copy from the publisher, and Jennifer Estep is a really good writer. She has a urban fantasy novel series starring an assassin. I read it many years ago, and it's 17 books or something. I only read the first 4 or 5, and then I kind of stopped. I just fell off the wagon, and I forgot to get more. I enjoyed them a lot, but Kill the Queen, this is such a good book. I like to describe it as a popcorn fantasy book. So it feels a little bit YA, but it's not about a YA person. And it just, I literally read it in one night. I could not put it down. It's not the deepest fantasy novel, but it checks every single satisfying thing about it. Like I said, it's a popcorn fantasy novel. I just love it. And I can't wait to see where it goes. And the world building is really good. The character's good. The main character, I don't want to spoil it, but she has this weird ability, and you're just like, what? How is this going to play out? And when you first read about it in the beginning of the book, you're like, huh? Did somebody just give her a challenge to make a book about somebody who has this ability? And it turns out to be, this ability is great. It's so interesting. So it just goes to show that you can make anything interesting, guys, if you just, you decide you want to make this interesting, or you think it's interesting and you want to convey how interesting it is to somebody else. I bought 2 books to read for the next 2 weeks. I got The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie. You guys have heard of this author before. I've mentioned her because I really enjoy her sci-fi work. She wrote an Ancillary Justice series, and it was a really interesting series. She won a lot of awards. It was one of her first books, and it turned into a trilogy. And the main character is, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's got gender neutral. It doesn't have a gender. So it won a lot of awards because she kind of really just makes you think in a lot of different ways. And it's kind of surprising to read. And then there was a follow-up to that, a standalone Provenance that I read last year that I think I reviewed really well here. And you could definitely jump into the world there for her sci-fi world there, but actually the trilogy is really, really great too. So I can't wait because she wrote a fantasy novel. And so The Raven Tower, I downloaded it because I saw somebody tweet about it. I was like, oh. Also, the Charlie Jane Anders has a new book out. It's called The City in the Middle of the Night. And I jumped all over that too. She wrote All the Birds in the Sky, which was out a couple years ago. And it was so innovative and imaginative. She's one of the founders of IO9. She's not there anymore, but she founded that site and kind of brought intellectual angles to genre in a way that was way forward thinking and ahead of its time. And it's always been one of my favorite blogs, and it continues to be one of my favorite blogs. And she really delivered on her first book, and I cannot wait to read this one. It's already on the best of lists everywhere. So super excited about that. She also has a podcast called All Our Opinions Are Correct. And Charlie Jane Anders hosts this with Annalee Newitz, who was her co-founder of IO9. So they do a really interesting, every 2 weeks they upload a really intellectual podcast exploring kind of the meaning of sci-fi. There was a really good one that I downloaded about what's so bad about cultural appropriation, why we're excited about Doctor Who again. Anyway, so really, really good. Highly recommend that podcast, and I'm excited to read her book. So moving on, I finished Assassin's Creed Origin on my stream, my Twitch stream, and I honestly miss Cassandra, my main character. It was such a good game, guys. And I had never made it through an Assassin's Creed before. Like, literally never made it 10 hours in another Assassin's Creed. It's just so good. And they just announced the new one, which is, I guess, going to be set in like 69 AD with Gaul. Kind of like the Roman, like kind of the fall of the Roman Empire kind of time. I mean, and there's going to be a lot more assassinations and stuff. But I just love Greek mythology, and being able to be in there and stab people while I enjoy Greek mythology. There are so many, like, just the research involved and with the writing. I kudos to them. There's not another game out there that really has the depth that this one did of this type. I mean, my favorite games, of course, are like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and I love Lara Croft. I love RPGs and things like, I'm a big RPG fan. So any kind of story-based game, Uncharted, Last of Us, all of that. So Assassin's Creed really filled that sort of like epic, long game where you can jump in. And it was so much fun to stream with y'all. So thank you for that. I am contemplating what to play next. I looked on Rock Paper Shotgun, which is one of my favorite gaming blogs. It's a PC gaming blog. And there's always something new there. They review like really indie games, but they review the big games too. And I was looking at their best of 2018 list, and I found a couple of games. A point-and-click adventure that I really want to try. I can't remember the name of. Yakuza 0, which is like a Sega import of a Japanese RPG open world game where you sing karaoke and stuff. And I think I might play that. I don't know. I don't know if people are going to be into it. I might try it for a couple days. I also found out that Trials was released. Now, I don't know if any of you guys played Xbox arcade games when they had the Xbox Arcade, but Trials HD was my obsession about 7 or 8 years ago. And Jed Whedon and I from Dr. Horrible, he is like a wizard on this game, and he would deliberately stay online to beat my scores on my friends list. Like, I would wake up in the morning and I would have beat him at something, and he would have already beat me again. It became the biggest rivalry of my gaming life. And I'm so excited that Trials, so it's in beta. I'm going to go see if I can access it tonight, actually, because I'm going to give myself a treat. I'm almost finished with my rewrite. Woo, woo, woo. Okay. Questiones. We have a bunch of questions. Thanks always to Sean Sandaluki who compiles them. If you want to ask me a question, please post it on Twitter with the hashtag felicitations, and I will get to you. This week, I'm actually cleaning up some older questions, okay? Christopher Long asks, if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice knowing what you know now, what would it be? Thank you, Chris. Chris, that's a great question, and it actually ties into, I guess, going home and getting an award, really. And when I was doing my lecture, there were some really great questions, especially from the gaming students, by the way. And there were a couple of homeschool people there too, which was awesome. But the question that really, made me think was, one person asked, how do you know how to get from A to B in your career? I think it was kind of done out of the anxiety of like they're graduating and they don't know where they're going to go after this because they see what I did, and I basically answered, I was like, I had no idea where I would end up. None of us do. And why would we want to? And I guess I would go back and tell myself, I would definitely tell myself to learn how to embrace failure, because failure is what gets you to the place where you need to be. It makes you better. You learn from it. You always learn more from your mistakes than your successes. And I was so pathologically anxious. I would have also told myself to get some therapy. But I was so anxious about failing. And I wish I could go back and tell myself it's okay to fail, because as you fail, you get better. And I would have, in avoiding failure for so long, I think I actually stunted myself in a way, because had I failed more, I would have learned better coping skills. I would have learned more about where my weaknesses were, because if you don't show your weaknesses, then how can you learn that they're weaknesses, really, right? If you hold them so close to your vest. And then coming back to the A to B thing, you never know where you're going to go, so just follow, your joy. Because that's really what I took away, coming back to the whole thing that I talked about earlier in the podcast, is that I had such joy in throwing myself into things. And I feel like I need to harness that again in what I'm pursuing now, right? Like I'm pursuing something, some things I think I'm pursuing just because I think they are impressive, or like I want to fit in or something, or other people would be impressed with them. And I think if I were brave enough to let go of things and just be honest about, do you really want this anymore? Or do you want this version of this? And what really excites you and makes you want to work and drives you? And it may be something that doesn't necessarily tie into what I'm doing now, but it could be something else. I feel like, does this make sense? I just feel like you never know where you're going to go. And I'm not the kind of person who would ever want to sign up and be like, okay, good, I'm at my job for 45 years and now I'm retiring, right? So that's who I am. I guess I would tell myself, don't be anxious about where you're going to go, because you're going to go exactly where you need to go. That sounded super zen. Okay, next question. Stephanie Huston? Stephanie Huston asks, what traits are you passing on to your daughter? Good and bad. Oh boy. Okay, well, we certainly read and do puzzles while we're eating, which is probably a bad trait in some respects, but I was raised with people just reading newspapers and not talking to each other over dinner. So that's one thing. I mean, traits, I guess traits is more of a genetic trait. Like I can see that she always needs stimulation. Like if there's not music on, she wants to be reading a book. If she's not reading a book, she wants to be doing a puzzle. But when she does something, she does it with such intensity that you cannot interrupt her, or she like has a fit. So like if she's doing a puzzle, I literally can't move her on from that puzzle until we finish the whole puzzle. And if she's building a town with her magnetic blocks, she loves her magnetic blocks, she will not stop. And I'm talking like 2 hours, she will be there. So she's very intense and focused, just like I am, and a little bit mercurial. And I think that she's kind of anxious underneath, which I'm not happy about passing on to her, but I know that I have the skills to cope with anxiety a little better than I was taught by my parents. And so hopefully I can head off some of the things that I encountered that maybe she doesn't have to encounter. Because it's interesting to see her when she gets into a new situation, she really withdraws, and she doesn't like being put on show at all. She doesn't like having to prove, like when people ask her, what does a cow say? She kind of just looks at them like, yeah, shut up. And I try to be really very judicious and not testing her like that and making her perform, because I want her to just be organically who she is and not feel like the way that she does things well is how people and adults will approve of her. It's super important to me. So I hope what I don't like about some things that I don't know how to fix it. She's like super naughty, and she loves just being contrary. Like the other day, we were going over colors, and I said, oh, my favorite color's orange. And she says, mine is pink. And I said, oh, I like pink too. And then there was a stunned silence, and she was like, no, you don't. And I said, yeah, I like pink. She's like, no, you don't. And it was obviously upsetting to her not upsetting, but it threw her that I said I like pink, because she, in her mind, thought I didn't like pink, because I don't have pink around the house with her, by the way. But so she decided to like pink a lot. So she's already a rebellious teenager at age 2, guys. Ugh. Anyway, she loves games as well. I guess that's a trait. Not a trait, but a habit that I passed on to her. I've already gotten her 3 board games. She's got a game called Sneaky Squirrel. She's got a game called Orchard. And she's got another game, I can't remember, Roll With It or something. It's a little like cube that has different colors on every side. Anyway, she loves all these games. So I'm like set, guys. One day when she's a little bit older, we're going to be playing like Seven Wonders when she's age, 6 or something. It's going to be great. I'm excited. Except I'll be old then. All right, next question. Ruvik asks, you've spoken quite a bit about writing, but can you tell us about your editing process? Do you have any tips or advice on how to edit your own writing? I picked this question because I am editing right now. I'm on like the third draft of something I can't talk about exactly what it is, but I am definitely going over it again in a way that I'm polishing it up to turn it in. And it's very hard to edit your own work. And I think it requires being able to put an objectivity cap on. And what always helps me is just giving it to one or two close people and getting feedback from them. And most importantly, that gives you like a couple weeks at least away from the thing that you've written so that you can kind of be objective about it again. If you get into it and you're way too personally involved in what you wrote, you're not going to be able to edit it because you have to be ruthless when you edit, right? Like I am a fat writer. I think that out of this project, I have written 50% over what I needed to do. And part of my editing process is cutting the fat off what I write. I've learned over the years that that's just how I have to write. Some people underwrite. They just do a skeleton of it and then they add fat as they go along. I tried that once. I simply couldn't do it. So, you kind of have to know what kind of writer you are. And once you're prepared for that, you can kind of like plan on what you'll be doing during editing. I will always know I will be cutting when I edit. And some people will always know they can fill things out when they edit. That's kind of a basic thing. Some people do temporary dialogue when they're writing. Or some people know that they have to fill out descriptions. That if they do too much description when they're doing their first draft, they'll kind of like stop their flow. It all comes with experience, and that's the same thing with editing. So one, knowing what kind of writer you are, and then B, having some people you trust really well to give you some feedback that allows you to be more objective. Sometimes it might be a whole month before you can really get enough objectivity. Sometimes it could be a year. You just have to figure out what works for you. I think a lot of the times we compare ourselves to other people too often when we are creating, and we have to know that everybody's creativity is different. And that also means that our creative process is all different. And if we think about ourselves in a negative way because we're not creating in the same way that somebody else did, well, we're creating something completely different. Why would we compare that? So anyway, good luck. Beth asks, does Calliope like Casper Baby Pants? I love those kids' songs so much. Oh my gosh, Beth, you asked a lot of questions I picked because they just coincided with my weeks. And Beth asked the best question because I created a playlist on Spotify for Calliope's baby music. I had used sort of like a standard nursery rhyme playlist that somebody had created on Spotify, but there were some weird songs in there that I didn't, like offensive ones that like girls are made of sugar and spice and boys are made, I'm like, no. There were some religious songs in there that don't necessarily fit into our lifestyle. And for about 6 months, I was too lazy to change it. And so the other day, as a procrastination technique, I made a brand new 200 song baby list of cool-ish baby music. Half of them are still like nursery rhymes, but I found so many great music artists. And Casper Baby Pants is one of them. He's so good, you guys. He covers all the Beatles songs, but he has amazing songs of his own, like Tiny Horse is one of my favorite songs right now. I found a bunch of other artists along Casper Baby Pants line. Bare Naked Ladies had a kids album. There is a cover of Yo Gabba Gabba songs by like Of Montreal. That one of my favorite songs is Brushing Your Teeth by Of Montreal. They're smooth, okay? There's another group called The Pop-Ups, Andrew and Polly. This guy named Justin Roberts is really great. He has this great one called Giant Sized Butterflies. And my favorite song that I found, or band, is called this band called Scratch Garden. And they have a cover. I found them because they do a cover of Little Bunny Foo Foo. Does everybody know the song? Little Bunny Foo Foo, hopping through the forest, picking up the field mice and bopping them on the head. Down came the good fairy, and she said, little bunny foo-foo, I don't want to see you picking up the field mice and bopping them on the head. I'll give you 3 more chances, and then I'll turn you into a goon. Okay, I was kind of like not committing to that because I don't want to sing that stupid song. Anyway, Calliope's obsessed with it. So I found one cover that just grates my nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. It's still in the playlist because she loves that one more. But I found this one by Scratch Garden, and the fairy is a dude with like this New York accent. He's like, if you do this again, I'm gonna turn you into a goon. You don't want me to do this. It's kind of crazy, and it's just crazy. And they have another song on on one of their albums called "Going to the Beach," and it's like, it's so funny, guys. It's just listen to it. I'll try to make the playlist public because there's no reason not to, and you guys can peruse it. And if you see any songs you like, just put them on your own playlist. Okay. Hey, I think I'm done this week. I talked a lot. I recommended some books. I think I had some deep thinking stuff there. I'm really tired, so if I wasn't articulate, I apologize. Please subscribe to this podcast. Still looking for a network. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And there's a siren outside, so it's clear I need to leave. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Promise. All right. Bye.